Hello all. As customary, we'll be waiting a little bit until more people join, and then we'll start.
Pascal, did you see Carsten's message?
No.
Okay, he wants to have a seed allocation after the errata.
Okay. That will be discussed in the agenda bashing, but I don't see why we could not do that. Okay, sorry, I was looking at the people, not the chat. Thank you, Laurent. Okay, I don't see that Alex is coming, so I will start doing the usual introduction slides. So this is an IETF meeting. The usual IETF not well applies, in particular the IPR rules. So if you're aware of any IPR on subject being disclosed today, please announce this IPR or let us know after the meeting. Also, the usual anti-harassment and code of conduct rules apply. So if you're not aware of those, please refer to BCP 25 and BCP 54 and apply them. And you may always report to the ombuds team. The link is given above. if you have any concern about any harassment taking place. So the original agenda is as this, and Karsten has asked to move the errata discussion before the seed allocation. So if you have any issue with this, please let us know, otherwise we'll do the move. I'm hearing nothing, seeing nothing. So I guess we'll move forward and start with the errata discussion. After the errata, we have
Hello. Yes, hello. Just to say hi. Sorry for being late. Thanks, Pascal, for starting.
Okay. So Anna raised a number of topics that discussion has started on the mailing list. So I would like to take the opportunity of this call to get some resolutions on some of the items that Anna has raised, so we can input text in the LP1 architecture. And finally, time permitting, we'll discuss the OAM draft, and that will be Laurent. So let's move on, because we have a huge set of things to discuss today. So as far as it goes for the LP1 documents, we're done. All the LP1's documents that were active at LP1 have been moved to SCHC, and the one which were in the ISG review queue have now been handled. And you can see that the compound ACK is in edit state, meaning that the RFC editor is actively editing it. And Sigfox was missing the reference to that one. So I guess when the SCHC compound ACK is complete, both SCHC over Sigfox and SCHC compound ACK will fly as RFCs, meaning that as far as LP1 is concerned, we can declare victory with a lot of good documents issued, and I would say a great history for this working group. So now we move to SCHC, and we already have a huge number of things on our plate. The first thing was the adoption for the SCHC over PPP. And I realized that we have not done this adoption, unless I'm missing something that I forgot. So we really need to do the call for adoption. So if you have any, well, it will be discussed on the next slide, but please think if you're against calling for adoption on this one, because we'll discuss that, otherwise we'll do the call. After that, we're supposed to adopt the LP1 architecture as SCHC architecture. I think that was done. So I don't know what item for May is. I think we're all set there. Maybe it was just making sure that the SCHC working group accepts to continue on the LP1 architecture document. I think that was the topic. So that is being heavily discussed today. Then we are supposed to adopt next month the OAM documents. That's the fourth topic that will be discussed today, time permitting. And then we're supposed to work on Bob's draft, but Bob is not with us, and it's not a topic for today, but we'll discuss it at the next IETF. So in more detail, the SCHC over PPP, we have to discuss adoption. And the OAM draft, I mean, does not exist either on LP1 or SCHC working group, so we need to reboot that document. For the rest, I mean, we'll be discussing it today for the most piece. And so to start with,
yes? Would you like me to send an email to the working group to start the adoption call?
Yes, that would be neat, because me being the author, I cannot. Yes, please.
Okay, so I'm going to do that, and then we hopefully will we'll get the adoption. So it was 2 weeks, right? The normal timeline. Okay, I'm going to do that after the call. Perfect.
So Marco, I loaded your slides and gave you control. I don't know why, but the tool has imported it 3 times. I hope you have not sent 3 times. I just accepted them once. So if you have more than one set of slides, please let me know.
There should be one only.
You may start.
Thank you, Pascal. There should be one only. So we should be good with this. Thank you. Okay. This is about resuming the discussion that we quickly started in Yokohama about the errata for 8824. And something actually happened since then. It's still 9 errata in total, but I originally marked only 2 of them as technical, and a few weeks ago, the RFC editor marked 5 of the editorial ones as technical. You can check for the details in the LP1 mailing list. But regardless, for 4 of them, and there were previous comments from Anna on the list, and we quickly touched 2 of those at IETF-116. So we can resume today. That's the first one that we quickly discussed. It's specifically about the section on the options size 1, size 2, proxy URI, and proxy scheme, discussing the case where CDA is value sent. And my understanding from 8724 and 8824 is that in that case, TV is empty or undefined. I saw both used, but not sent, really. So there was a comment from Anna about the choice of not sent instead of not sent. True, I've seen that in both the mentioned documents, but again, when CDA is value sent, I found everywhere TV empty or undefined, while not sent is something indeed used, but for other fields. So the proposal would be to consider empty here too, consistently with other sections. So that's a recap. Anna.
Well, the thing is, does empty means that I have a value?
No, if you look at tables, for example, that literally the empty entry, and the text sometimes says empty, sometimes says undefined, if you look at those sections I quote.
Okay, I will look at that.
Thanks. And yeah, the text in the new draft referred to here, by the way, is in fact proposing the new text proposed in the errata in case we go for accept and all for document update. Loran.
Yes, I think empty is a good wording, because if we don't have any value, we don't need that field. Because if we put something, then it will make the model larger. So it's good not to send it when we don't need it, or not to specify it when we don't need it.
Right. Okay.
So for the minutes, do we agree that basically the group agrees with what Marco is suggesting? I mean, that's what you were saying, Laurent, right? We are all in agreement with Marco's suggestion here, correct? Laurent? Okay, I'm not hearing Laurent. Yvan, yeah? Yvan? Quentin, do you want to say something?
Yes, thank you. The question is, should it be empty or should it be a zero length value? I mean, the question is for consistency of the model, so that there is always a TV, and in this case, it's zero length.
That's
Now, that was my question, because if empty means that there is no value. This means that there is no anything in target value. So you don't have 0 anything. There's no value. It's not set. And if you put 0, this is a value. 0 is a value. So is there is a value or not value?
So there's
So,
a question from Ivan who asked, I just have a question about the young data model. Is there an empty type? How is it defined in 9363?
So normally, if it's not specified, it's not here. So you don't have that leaf if that leaf is not needed for the young data model. And to answer with Quentin, there is the field length is the field length of the packet, and it's not the field length of the target value. So you, if you, for example, if you have a version 6 or something that you ignore, you will put nothing, and you will send it. And here you will send the length, but it's not the length of the TV.
Yeah, I do understand. I wasn't referring to the field length. It's just the TV itself. I mean, it's a construct, right? When you're defining a TV, you have to provide some kind of way of saying the TV is of a given size. It makes sense that, for example, if you're providing a string value, there is a \0 that is implied. But yeah, I mean,
That's in the coding in CBOR or in JSON. You have the length of this.
Yeah.
Yes, there is one thing about the word empty, because empty can be a little bit ambiguous. For example, if you talk about a string, an empty string can be a string of size 0, of length 0. And there is a difference between a null string and an empty string. And in any case, I think that here it's pretty clear that if you have the MO set to ignore and the CDA sent to value sent, then the TV basically you don't care. But in order for us to be complete, we say, okay, well, we put some value, some special value to indicate that, that there is no target value there. So the proposal is to put an empty TV. Isn't that more ambiguous than saying that there's a special type of target value which is called empty? I don't know. In any case, in terms of coding, then we should not be wasting bytes just for that, if we can. Yes, Quentin.
Yeah, you made a good example with the string, the empty string, because the empty string is of length one byte, and there's the \0. So it's empty for a string, but the length of the field itself is going to be of size 1.
Quentin, isn't that the way it's implemented in C, but doesn't have to be, right? I mean,
yeah, you're right. You're right. But then the question is, what is empty?
If there is a length, I mean, you were suggesting to send a 0 length, and I was happy with that. But is there an issue with that?
So I mean, yeah, the point is that empty can be ambiguous depending on in some programming languages it can mean something, and in some others, like, well, it can be this or that. Python is very, it can have empty to be empty string or no. I mean, maybe not no, but you can have a couple of things that resolve to empty. And in any case, like it seems that, and this is probably a question to Marco. So here the erratum is because you say that it's like not sent. So here the way I interpret not sent is like, okay, there is a special value that indicates that that target value is not sent, right? So is it a good choice to have put it the same thing as the CDA? Then, you know, that's a different story. But here it's like a special value, like no is a special value. And well, there are some other cases that like there are special constants. So this is a special constant that basically says, well, TV, well, there should be nothing here, right? So here the point is, do we want to define a new empty type, which says, hey, well, that, or should we say, well, the TV should be ignored?
Whatever we decide, I think should be consistent with what is done in the sections and tables I quote. Thinking of the table specifically, they have literally the empty field there. So how do you describe it?
Yes.
You can say non-existent instead of empty.
But the field is still in the rule, right? It's just empty.
It depends. It's in the rule because you cannot make a hole on the paper when you do it. But in the young data model, it doesn't exist. And for example, in OpenSCHC, it can be viewed as none. But that's an implementation issue.
Yes, none was the other thing. Thank you, Laurent. Anna, you have something to say?
I think that Marco raised need correction, because I think that the not sent is not the correct terminology we would like to use, and it was not set, S-E-T, and set and not set. So because we want to avoid empty, because empty, as you explained, sometimes means something. So we were preferring not set and set, but we make a misspell and we put not sent. That's why. That's only what I want to say.
So probably not set is good to use those in some of those sections. Put it there. I'm pretty sure it's not. So another point is consistency, of course. This was the only outlier I could find. But if it's fixed, depending on the fix we choose, the fix has to be propagated.
Actually, that's just in terms of to complete the discussion. In terms of encoding, I think it's most efficient to say that the target value is ignored. It doesn't matter because it avoids adding a new special constant, right? But I mean I think that goes beyond a technical erratum. So probably yes, as Marco and Anna said, the best thing is just settle on one thing and make sure that they are harmonious, right? So if it's setting the TV to I don't know, to not set. I have no strong opinion personally.
You'd become by not setting TV here, I guess. But then again, we should check all the other cases.
Yes. Yes, Laurent?
Yes, I like not setting the TV because not set and not send is very close. And here there is more Hamming distance between this, and it's good.
Mm-hmm.
So we conclude we use not set, right? But we need to move on because it's only one of the 5, and we're already half of the hour.
Okay, moving to the next one then. Yeah, this was also quickly discussed. In Yokohama, it was about the case when observe is used. And I'm sorry that the new text I proposed tried to be simple, but distracted from the main point and open a discussion on option versus extension. That's really not what I meant. What read weird to me was that the co-op option seems like can use a message, while the user here is the client. So maybe it's better for clarity, to avoid misunderstanding, to just consider instead the rephrasing I proposed here at the very end of the slide, where it's not about option altogether. It's more about describing the situation and who the real user is. Comments? Anna?
Yeah, I think that it was very confusing because we are really compressing the option, even if it's an extension. But when we make chic, we compress the option. So what you are suggesting is more clear for me.
Okay, thanks. More comments? And no, so this ended up easy. 94. Right, this was editorial to me, at least the way I found it. It really looked like a typo, that digit 1 in the MO field. Now it's marked technical. There was a comment from Anna here too, clarifying well, the meaning of this rule. If I understand correctly, she's proposing to fix equal 1 to be equal, but then to replace path with LM, basically. But Anna, please chime in.
Again, I think you find another need for the very old version of this document, because when I read the erratum, I say, what is this equal 1? And so I start searching where we put this equal 1, and I found it in, I think it's in version 2 or 3 of the draft, and we never correct it until the end, until now. And I said, it's not possible. We cannot have a MU matching operator equal 1. That doesn't exist. So you are right, it's an error. But for me, it's an error that we keep it during all the life of this draft. And for me, the correction will be to have a matching operator equal and the element in the target value, because path can have different elements. So jury path is divided in different elements. So in target value, you have the element of the path, isn't it?
Well, they sound like two different errata to me.
Okay.
This was about that field alone. So maybe your point can be a separate erratum to open.
Okay.
Right? I don't know. And well, replacing path with LM
Element
feels
of the
correct.
path.
Is just another word. Loran?
Yes, it's an historical point, so I think we don't have to discuss that much. We just remove equal, and that's all. I think what Anna wanted is just path is slash something, slash something, slash something, as element is just a something. So it may be clearer, but I think it's detailed.
Yeah, it feels cleaner in case to be a separate erratum to file to me. But that's for someone else. I'm not going to file it myself.
Yeah. Well, for me, I think remove the 1 and it's okay. Don't go to a lot of explanations.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, then I move on. 95. Yeah, we didn't see this. This was about a set of rules on compressing co-op type. Yeah, I just noted the sentence in the text that was really suggesting something consistent with value sent in both directions. Well, you actually have a case where you don't send nothing at all in a certain direction if type is specifically confirmable. So I was proposing to expand the text, I believe, to describe the rules in the table in a clearer way. As Anna said, totally, the whole rule covers both type and code separately and in a good way. The text was just about not suggesting that type is always sent, because there's a case where you don't send it. Any comment? So silence is good. Anna?
Yes, for me it's okay.
Okay. Thanks. Then I move on. Okay, we haven't really seen this before. I squashed all three together. The first two ones were originally editorial, now they are technical. The first one in the old text suggested to me about compressing the client. Well, of course, the point is about compressing the request, so I'm just rephrasing here to make that clear. That's why I felt it as editorial, honestly. Anna?
Answer, because for me it was editorial, and I say, as you has explained, that it was okay. It's just completing the correct editorial thing. So I didn't answer to the editor. Do I have to answer, or does anybody have to answer to say yes, it's okay, or?
I think they were mostly looking for Eric to check and comment. So he will probably object if editorial is more appropriate.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, the second one was about splitting clearly co-op options in general as including specifically the OSCOR option indicating the use of OSCOR. So option should be in the plural. That was the essence of the errata. And to me, that was editorial as well. I don't know why they changed it.
Yes, for me also. So that's why I didn't say anything. It was okay. So again, if we need to answer, I can send an answer, or I don't know.
Please do. It doesn't hurt.
Okay.
But yeah, especially these two, I feel them mostly editorial. The third one here instead was technical all along, and it was about clarifying the behavior of some co-op options per co-op. So your iPath is not mandatory to have in the request, as the old text says. There are cases where it can be absent. While on the other hand, it's not really supposed to be in responses. So the new text should clarify this. I don't see any comment in the chat either. So I assume this is fine, and I move on. Yeah, and this should really be uncontroversial. They're basically typos or little more. They were editorial, they are still editorial. Any comment? If no, then I'm done.
Okay, many thanks. So I mean, if I read well, pretty much everything is accepted, right? It's just that the first one, I guess the conclusion was to say not set instead of not sent for the TV, right? So describing an empty TV is not what we want. We want to say setting the TV to not set. Is it correct, Anna?
Yes, not set or unsetting, depending on what
Yes,
sounds well in the sentence.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Apart from that, I understand, Anna, that we accept all the errata, right? They're all correct. Correct.
Yes, I have another issue there. I don't know if it's in the same document you add more things than the errata, isn't it?
But there is a new draft, right?
The new draft as of now was intended to address only this particular errata, basically restating that small section on those options with the new phrasing that we can, of course, change using unsetting. But then maybe there is more text from 8824 to be fixed with this new terminology that we can also do.
For now, we can hold the document. It could be a bis in the future. But it seems to me that if we just say that we accept those errata and they are published next to the RFC, that does the trick, right?
Yeah. And
I will talk to Eric about saying that if you can basically, well, it's the one we discussed, but yes, if you can just give me this list of EIDs, and so I will post to Eric that we accept them, just the 7391, please rephrase it before we say we accept. Thank you so much, Marco. That's a very deep review that you've made. And it's really appreciated. I mean, you really fixed the tiny thing that we didn't see. I mean, so that's really, really nice. Thanks so much for
no
this.
problem at all. And since you mentioned it, we plan to raise the possible switch to a BIS in San Francisco, also building on the suggestions we got.
Okay, I mean, when we have enough content for the BIS, then I guess we'll go for it.
Thank you.
And next is the seed. I guess we are already late. We won't cover all our topics. So let me share this.
Okay, you do just sharing?
You want to do it or I do it?
No, I
if
do
you
it as fast.
Okay, go ahead,
The
Laurent.
quickest. I do. Okay. Now I know. I have to find it. There is a 3 version 2. I don't know which one is good.
Yes, don't ask me. I did not yet upload them once. I just
Okay. So it's okay. Is it okay? Do you see the slides?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, so it's the presentation we should have done in Yokohama, and I didn't find the real PDF version, so I took back the one from Yokohama. That's why you have the this number, but nothing has changed, and I had to refresh myself about what we have to say on it. But in fact, it's to talk about the process to do seed allocation, because there is a process that is defined by the core working group, that is fine, but I think we can go a little bit more deeper to optimize things, especially for SCHC, where we need to have very constrained representation of the young data model. So just to refresh how it works. So on the left-hand side, you have, for example, an RFC that will define a young data model. And inside, you will have some identifier. We choose in SCHC to use identifier because this way we have a unique way to represent something, and anybody can also add new identifier. And we have, of course, the data model by itself that is represented by a structure. And in CoreConf, this structure is delta encoded. It means that you don't put always the seed number, but you put a delta regarding the previous one. So that's fine. It works well. But in our vision, where we want to augment a model, if we do another RFC with another young data model, then it will have the same structure. So with identity at the beginning and then the leaf, what we had. And since there is several rules that say that you need to use at least 50 seeds when you ask for allocation, and that you have identity that are always at the top, it means that for the delta encoded, if you, in a structure, you take leaves from one young data model and other, and it's delta encoded, so the delta can be higher. And of course, if it's only, the difference is only between minus 24 and 23 in the model, it's only 1 byte. But if value are higher, it's 2 bytes, 3 bytes. That's a reasonable value, and I don't think we will have a higher value. But if we can constrain the delta, then we have more compact representation of models. So so we make some measurement. So first hypothesis is that we have a SCHC model that has been defined in RFC 9363, and it will be and we will add new things around. And so we make some different we did test to see what will be the size of this allocation. So here is a proposal. I will come back after on that. But especially here, you have a new allocation of that could be done for the group. It means that here we have so if you look at what will be done by default by Pyong, it means that you will take, for example, 5,000, and then you will put your first element, second element, etc., until the end. So here, what we propose is to have a more tricky way to do things. And for example, here you have one main, the top of the structure that will be put in position 5024, which means that this way we have 24 value before, where we have the smallest delta, where we can put things, and 23 value after, where we can also put things. And this way we have free space for augmentation. Of course, these values are overlapping. So for example, in blue, you have for the IETF-SCHC, and in green, you have for another element, especially same thing in yellow. So here we have a test of allocation that should be discussed after in the group. But for example, here you have, if you look at value 5070, so here you have an entry, so that describe rule entry, and we put all the elements that we expect. Just after, we have free space, and after that, we have other element for fragmentation that will, here it's in red on the left column, because here we have a coding on 2 bytes, but these are less frequent elements. So what we will have to discuss, if this kind of proposal is accepted, is how we place all the identifier or element we have in a SCHC data model to be sure that we can extend easily things with new option, and also that the size of the representation can be very compact. And after this part that describes the structure, then we have a part that is after. Here we don't have delta, we just have some value that can be listed in any order where we find all the identifier, all the identity. So we make some measurement with what we have right now. So we have the SCHC data model from the RFC 9363 that using 136 elements. So 92 for identity, 2 for feature, and 42 for data. We have also the OM model that is in draft mode, where we have 10 identity mainly and 1 data. And we have access control that also add 4 elements in the structure for the rule. Of course, this is just example. We are working on the access control, and we will have, I think, a different structure. But here, what is important is how we represent this information. So let's have a look. So we make some measurement. So we have 3 types of rules. So set of rule 9363, which is the basic one. So with 2 rules that comply with the RFC. We have set of rule AOM, and so we add a new identity to the model, and set of rule AOM plus access control, where we add new identities, but also new leaves in the structure. So the first column is, for example, if we take seeds in the public range, so in the million range. And so here we see the size of the structure for different rules that are listed in the draft. So it's 2,194, etc., etc. So you see the augmentation because we add new identity or we add new list. Now, the good news is that if we take the regular way to do the allocation, it means that we take the IETF space, but we separate all the data model, then we have a reduction of at least 400 bytes or more with this. So it's better than using another space. So that's why it's important for the group to request some value. Now, if we have IETF group, which means that we are using the allocation I show you. So we have a diminution of 19 bytes in the first case. We have 24 too, but here it's logical because here the difference is because we have a clever allocation and we have smaller delta, but the difference is not that high. But when we look at the last element, so the SOR IOM plus access control, then here we introduce new leaves, and here we see that we have a better reduction of 50 bytes. And then we have the last column, or the penultimate column, where if it's called ISG Dream, it means that we take tens value in the smallest value possible, and that are reserved by ISG, and then we have to discuss and prove that is interesting. So here we take only 1% of the space, and you see that, and we allocate them to the most common element, like formatting operator and CDA. And here we have a very strong reduction in size of the representation. And in fact, if you look, it's about 10% of the representation in JSON. So that's some measurements. So for me, what we can do in the group is that instead of allocating a seed range for each RFC, I think the working group should ask for a pool of addresses. So I put 500 because I think it's a reasonable number, but we can maybe go to 1,000. Maybe ask for ISG for the most common values to use very, very small seeds for this identity. And each time the working group issue a new RFC containing a young data model, then we have to do this manual allocation, which is not so complex to do because we can use Pyong to do an allocation with dummy numbers, and then we can have a CSV file as Carsten proposed, and we can change this dummy value to the value that has been allocated by the group. So I don't know if I was clear in this short presentation, but if you have questions or comments.
Yeah, the reason why I wanted to be part of this discussion is that this, of course, has an influence on what we actually write in the core SID document. And right now, the core SID document essentially states a few requirements on how the SID allocation should be done, but then goes on to derive a procedure how to do this that maybe is too narrow. And I think we should spend a little time making sure that the statement of the requirements is complete, so we can just say in core SID that there can be other ways of doing allocation within this set of requirements. And I would hope to get a little bit of help from the people who are part of this process when I finally get around to proposing what we need to change in core SID to support this.
Okay, I think it's far away, but in the core conf, you have a way to ask for a value. A working group can ask for value right now. No. I think, yeah.
Yeah, I think we really have to read careful what CORSID is really saying about this, because
Okay.
yeah, it's saying a lot, and it's giving a really nice default procedure that people can be using, but we have to be careful to say what part of that procedure is actually a requirement and what part is just the way we recommend people to do if they don't know a reason to do something more elaborate like what we are proposing here.
Okay, no problem. But from my point of view, it's not blocking. It is that we don't change the if someone wants to issue something using the regular procedure, we are not blocking it.
Well, you are certainly not blocking anything. I just want to make sure that CORSID doesn't sound like what you are doing is not allowed.
Okay.
So I really like the approach for doing these allocations in a space where space really matters. So this is good work. We just have to make sure that CORSID properly recognizes these cases and describes its own procedure just as the default way of doing things.
Okay, thank you.
So just one question here on the next steps on this document, and thank you very much, Laurent, for the presentation, and Karsten for the very good observation. I mean, for taking part of the discussion and for making sure that the core SID document is aligned. So what would be the next steps from your point of view, Laurent, and also Karsten? You know, the two documents. What do you
So
see?
for me, what is important is that the group, the chair say, okay, the group can manage this allocation and can specify seeds, and that we maintain a document that contains the allocation done by the group.
Okay, so you see it at some point as a working group item. The document that you're writing. Probably, and probably then with Karsten, we'll need to clarify the point that, as he said, that we need to make sure that the core SID does not explicitly forbid what you're doing here.
I'm confused, Laurent, because how are the seeds saved? I mean, is it IANA? Because that's a typical IANA job. It's just that there will be many seeds, but it's not a working group which is supposed to handle the seed. It's supposed to be a registry like IANA.
Yes, but if you do this procedure, it means that you will ask for at least 50 seeds to the IANA for your RFC. And then you will allocate this, and that's all. So it's a really IANA RFC basis.
Yes, I understand you want to be a sub-registry.
But if
or regional registry or something, call it the way you want, but is it new at the IETF? I've never seen that before.
I think it is now being specified by Comicor or Core Comic.
Okay, so they encourage this behavior. Karsten?
Yeah, so basically we don't want to task IANA with doing something that requires deep knowledge of the subject space. So they are starting to do this with Yang in general, but I think before we get them to actually do SID allocations as a service, that will take some time. So the current core SID document essentially places the onus on the designated expert. So the expert would work with the working group that has a specific idea of how to do these allocations to make sure that the allocations are in the right form to register them.
ISG's part, it's also this group that will. So if we come and say we want 10 ISG value, it's also this group that will do the allocation.
Well, the ISG values are ISG values, so they probably won't allocate these unless there is a document that justifies that.
Okay.
Okay, so
So
we are very close to the top of the hour, so we won't have time to enter the discussions on the architecture. So what I suggest, Laurent, if you don't mind, is we discuss a little bit what you want to do with the OAM draft. So we just have 5 minutes, if it's okay, so you can tell us what is the future for this document.
Sorry for the others. So I have to find it. I don't see it in. Oh, yes, it's here. Okay. So it's a document that we have done with Dominic. And so we didn't publish right now the RFC because we have some issue with XML, but you can find the document on the LP1 GitHub. So if you want to have access to it. So I will say quickly that we focus only on ICMP messages that are defined in the RFC 4443 and to do the compression. But it's not just a document where we define the rule for compression like for COAP, but in fact, we add also new feature to SCHC that are, I think, very important also for the evolution of SCHC. So the different element we have is first a proxy that will process directly the information. I will show you some example. We have also ICMP generation that can be done for when we find an error in the compression or fragmentation. And also we propose new CDA or new matching operator for compressing inside a message. So, and everything has been implemented in OpenSCHC, so we can test it, and I can show you, or maybe during the hackathon, I can show if people are interested. So here, just quickly, the different elements. So what is new? It's that now, of course, you can compress packet on the link, but here we have a proxy that allows you to answer to the pings. So the ping. So in the middle here, you have the core SCHC. And so if a SCHC message has been received by the core SCHC, it will answer to echo request directly, and it will not be sent to the device. But it is specified for a certain period of time. And when this period of time has expired, so the core SCHC will not answer to a request anymore. So that's an easy way to find if a device is alive without sending on the LP1 some information. So to do this, we add to the rule an action parameter. The other thing, yeah.
Sorry, but when I see your flow, if in the second case, could there be a bit or something which says try sending to the client, to the device, because the device may be alive, and depending on the LP1 technology, it might be possible to send the packet to the device. I mean, I understand that for LoRa,
it's not. It's good for the moment. I think it will need to have another action, because the current action is to do this. And but one extension, maybe we can add an action that say proxy or send. But it's not the case right now. But that's a good idea.
And Laurent, personally, my next meeting has just started, so we need to kind of move on.
Okay, so but yes, so here it's so what we have done here is, for example, you have a device that sends the message, and the message generate an ICMP message somewhere on the internet. So the core SCHC receive an ICMP message, and here what we propose is to add to recompress the message that is echoed by ICMP and to send to to the device, the ICMP message that is compressed, and the payload that is also compressed using the rule that the core SCHC has. So this means that we have two new MA that say match rule and match or reverse match rule. That means that we are using matching in the same direction or in the opposite direction. And same thing, we can send a compress things or reverse compress.
Laurent?
Yeah.
If I can suggest, there is very little traffic coming from the device. And what I'm really concerned is because we don't have, that's part of the architecture discussions, but we don't have an order for the rules. So you never know if you will compress it the same way as it was compressed. So what you're sending back is probably not the same bits.
We don't care. We don't care because the device will use a rule. Because here in the compress, here you have the rule ID.
You will not know what is sent. And the prime might be related to what is sent, not how you...
It works. Maybe we can discuss. If you say me to go fast and to answer,
okay.
It will be difficult, but we can discuss offline.
Next time. Yes, we will. Okay.
And the last thing is that we introduce also some ICMP message error that can be generated by the core SCHC. For example, we can use type 0, so it's error. Code 3, it means that host not found. It means that a packet arrived to the core SCHC and it didn't find any rule for any devices. So here we send this message. If the device is found, but there is no matching rule, we say that the port is not found. And I think we don't have to introduce new ICMP messages because it can be a security issue, for example, to say, oh, I am a poor device that is on a LP1 network, so don't attack me. And here it's regular messages, so it's better. And another one that has not been put in the draft right now, but when you receive a too big packet and your fragmentation rules cannot carry this large packet, then we can send an ICMP too big message. And so I just put here some example that is derived from OpenSCHC. And in the second column on the bottom, you see the ICMP v6 payload. And here we have the matching operator that is used. And we send nothing. But it means that if the matching operator, if we don't find any reverse rule, then we will not apply this rule. On the last column, you have the action proxy ping and the value. For example, here it works for 10 seconds.
Okay, Laurent, so many thanks. And I guess I have to abruptly end this meeting because for some of us, we're already late. So yeah, thank you so much all, and we'll continue all those discussions on the mailing list. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
Thanks, bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.